Eala's phenomenal run ends. The Philippines' Alex Eala ran out of magic in the Dubai Duty-Free Tennis Championships, bowing to the United States world number 4 Coco Gauff, 0-6, 2-6 on Thursday night. Gauff, determined to bounce back from a shock early exit in Doha last week, overcame a passionate partisan crowd by playing her usual game and send a message to Eala in the 68-minute contest that there is still a long way to go to attain that level. Still, it was a phenomenal run for Eala, who made it to the quarterfinal by taking down world number 8 Jasmine Paolini and number 32 Sorana Cîrstea, after gaining ground due to the retirement of number 45 Hailey Baptiste in the round of 64 after her Middle East swing. Eala's eyes now trains for the United States as she is among the players in 96 singles draw in the Indian Wells, which starts March 4th. Eala is also seen in the player acceptance list for the Miami Open, where she's seeking to reprise her semi-final run last year. Starting March 17, denied of having a chance of beating a top 10 player for the 4th time in her career, Eala will benefit from her WTA 1000 Dubai defeat. "Obviously, I think the gap between us was pretty prominent," said Eala, who is expected to rise to a new career best number 32 in the world when the WTA releases its latest rankings on Monday. "That's not to say that I'm so far out of reach from these players. I think this match was... I mean, the score says a lot, but I think I'm not so disappointed. I keep my head up. I feel good about the whole week and how I've been doing. So, the biggest takeaway for me, honestly, is that I'm on the right path." Eala looked tentative right from the get-go, quickly losing her first service match and, despite the third seed firing off the first of 3 first-set double faults, the 20-year-old was unable to capitalize, making the wrong decision, finding the net, hitting long at I in the third game. Eala saved a break point but then volleyed wide at deuce-to-hand advantage to Gauff, who gratefully won the next point to go 3-0. Gauff eventually won 10 consecutive games before Eala did finally get on the scorecard. To trim down the deficit to 1-4, finally getting some rhythm, Eala won another game. But any hope of a miracle from the Quezon City native was short-lived as Gauff broke back and consolidated to put the match out of reach. "I could have served a little better, but I made it in when it mattered," Gauff said. "Alex is a tough competitor. Even when I was up, I knew she could come back at any given moment. I've seen her do it before." Gauff will meet Ukraine's Elena Svitolina, the 2-time Dubai champion who dumped her out of the Australian Open unceremoniously in straight sets last month. In the Friday semi-final, Svitolina rallied from a set down to beat surprise package Croatia's Antonija Ružić 3-6, 6-2, 6-3. To reach the Final Four. The other semi-final pits Jessica Pegula and Amanda Anisimova in an All-American duel. Alex Eala. A phenomenal run ends, a greater journey begins. There are moments in sport when the scoreboard says finished, but the story says just beginning. When the final ball lands wide, the applause lingers longer than the silence. When defeat feels suspiciously like destiny tapping you on the shoulder. This was one of those moments for Alex Eala. Her phenomenal run, brilliant, fearless, history-laced, has come to an end. But endings in tennis are rarely endings. They are commas. They are deep breaths before the next serve. The spark before the flame. Long before the crowd swelled and commentators rehearsed her name with reverence, Eala was simply a girl with a racket and a dream larger than the court that held her. Under the tropical sun of the Philippines, tennis was not the obvious path to global glory. Basketball courts were louder. Boxing rings carried legends. But she chose the quiet geometry of the baseline. There is something solitary about tennis. No teammates to hide behind. No clock to blame. Just player, opponent, and the thin white lines that decide everything. Eala learned early that those lines could be both prison and passport. She sharpened her game far from home, training in Spain, carrying her flag stitched invisibly into every swing. Each tournament was more than a match. It was proof that a Filipina could belong on courts traditionally ruled by other nations. Every forehand was a declaration. Every backhand, a rebuttal to doubt. And then came the run. When momentum becomes music, a phenomenal run doesn't announce itself. It begins quietly, an upset here, a confident straight sets win there. The body grows lighter. The ball seems larger. The net, friendlier. Suddenly, what once felt improbable begins to feel inevitable. That Eala's run had that rhythm. She wasn't just winning, she was composing. Her baseline rallies became symphonies of patience and precision. Her returns landed deep and daring. Her movement across the court had the kind of certainty that belongs to athletes who are not merely playing to survive, but to conquer. Opponents who underestimated her paid the price. Veterans found themselves unsettled by her composure. Rising stars realized she was not a footnote in their story, she was writing her own. With every victory, history leaned closer. For the Philippines, her success was not just personal, it was communal. Fans woke before dawn to stream matches. Social media buzzed. Young players in local courts imitated her service motion. Parents spoke her name as possibility. In her run, a nation glimpsed itself. The weight of belief success is exhilarating. It is also heavy. With each advancing round, the stakes thickened. Expectations grew louder than the crowd. Could she go further? Could she break another barrier? Could she turn a run into a reign? Great athletes are tested not only by opponents but by belief, especially when it expands beyond their own. Eala carried that belief with quiet strength. She did not roar unnecessarily. She did not crumble publicly. She met the moment with the same discipline that built it. Yet tennis is ruthless in its democracy. No matter how poetic the journey, the match still comes down to points. To margins measured in inches. To legs that may tremble just a fraction longer in the third set. And then, as it always does, the moment arrived. The match that closed the chapter. There is a particular stillness before the final games of a defining match. The air changes. The rallies stretch longer. Every serve carries the weight of narrative. Eala fought. Of course she did. She chased impossible balls. She defended corners with grit that belied her years. She struck winners that ignited hope. For flashes, it seemed she might will the story to extend itself. But sport is not written by will alone. An opponent across the net found answers. A break of serve shifted momentum. A single unforced error arrived at the worst possible time. The scoreboard tilted, and then, the handshake. No tears of collapse. No dramatics. Just the quiet dignity of someone who understands that defeat is not disgrace. It is instruction. Her phenomenal run had ended, but what lingered was not loss. It was proof. What the run meant to measure her achievement solely by the final result would be to misunderstand its magnitude. This run was a lighthouse. It illuminated pathways for Southeast Asian athletes in global tennis. It reminded governing bodies back home that investment in youth programs matters. It gave children someone who looked like them holding a trophy, standing tall under international lights. In tennis, breakthroughs are not always about titles. Sometimes they are about arrival. Eala arrived. She arrived in conversations once.